To be is to sit in silence and to feel presence come over you and to exude that light everywhere you go. Everywhere you go. It's not an action that you're doing. The action comes from actual obedience and listening to our intuition, listening to those promptings, and just showing up every day in that way.
Welcome back to Relatable Wisdom, the podcast where everyday people share the quotes that illuminate their journey, inviting us all to reflect and grow together. Today we're joined by Sylvia Worsham, a 3-time best-selling author and spiritual transformation coach. With a remarkable story of resilience and a passion for guiding others through their own turning points, Sylvia helps women navigate profound changes and align with their true purpose. Let's open our hearts and minds as we dive into Sylvia's world and discover the wisdom that has shaped her path.
Ready?
Tell us your name and your favorite quote.
I'm Sylvia Worsham, and I'm an author of In Faith I Thrive. And my favorite quote actually comes from scripture, from Matthew 5:14, that says, "Be the light."
Ooh.
And I think it's so amazing.
Be the light.
Because it's giving us the action to be, right? Not to do, not to feel, but to actually embody the light within us.
Be the light.
So that's why I love it.
Be the light.
Be the light.
Be the light. Be the light. Be the light. Okay. First thing I want to ask is, I know you just quickly gave us a very fast and brief expose on what it means to be, but can you really explain the word be? What do you understand it to mean with concrete example? What does it mean to be something?
To embody it completely. So your whole being is light. Can you hear me?
Your daughter is waving to me. I don't know if it's your daughter or your granddaughter, but someone was waving at me from the background. Yeah, I had to wave back. She's still waving. Can you see her? Oh. Oh, okay. What's her name? Let me say hi to her for me.
Oh, my, whoever was behind me, my daughter.
Vivian. Wow. Oh, okay.
Vivian.
Yeah.
Vivian.
Oh, hi, Vivian. I don't know. Okay, yeah, you're using the headset, so she can't hear me talk. Hi, Vivian. Wow. Okay. Sorry.
No, she can
hear me.
She can totally
Okay.
hear
Hi,
you.
Vivian.
Yes.
Thanks for joining on the podcast. Please allow me to in the next 24 minutes we should be done with the interview. Yeah, but she did spice up the entire interview. Yeah, other than
she actually doesn't mind. She would pop into my interviews back in 2020 when I would do videos to empower people during the pandemic, and she would pop into the videos and she'd be totally comfortable in the light and in camera, which I wasn't. I was actually doing it to not be comfortable and to stretch myself, but she was all for it. And now it's reverse. Now I've gotten really comfortable in the light, and she has kind of like, she'll hide behind cameras and stuff. So it's interesting how that works out. But,
I mean,
but going back to the quote, I guess, is to embody.
Okay.
It's just to be who you were born to be.
Okay.
And to shine your gifts onto humanity and allow God's character and God's light to show through you, because that's the way that I feel like we're all interconnected. We can come from different backgrounds.
Yeah.
We can come from different religions. We can come from just various different workspaces. But the truth is, we all have intuition, and we all have a soul and soul's desires and light that lights us up. And so when I hear and I read "Be the Light," the way I interpret it is to show that light and inspire others to step into their own light.
Now, I understand what it means to be. You explained it. But can we use an illustration to explain what it means to be? Because be is a very specific word. It's not try, it's not do, it's not think, it's not talk about. It's to be.
To be is to sit in silence and to feel presence come over you and to exude that light everywhere you go. Everywhere you go. It's not an action that you're doing. The action comes from actual obedience and listening to our intuition, listening to those promptings, and just showing up every day in that way. whether it is serving others, where you sit on these podcast interviews, for example, and people ask you questions and you don't hold anything back. You exude that gift, you share, you don't keep it to yourself, because keeping it to yourself, first of all, it's not your gift to keep. It's your gift to give away. We give out of the abundance that we receive from the light within us and the soul's desires that are pulling us into a space where we just embody the gifts, whatever that looks like for you. In my case, it's writing books and sharing the messages and sharing how I connect to my intuition and create relationship with Christ. And that is the light is actually taking those gifts and sharing it with others in whatever medium that looks like for you. That's how I interpret being versus doing versus feeling. It's actually stepping into that obedience fully.
Okay. Um, what does it mean to be the light? The light, like emphasis on the light, just the light part in the context of this conversation.
The light is the gift. The light is the gift that each of us, when we're born, are all given certain gifts. Some of us are given gifts of the written word. Some of us are given the gift of empowerment. Some of us are given the gift of standing side by side others and guiding them, teaching. Whatever that gift is, that's the light. That is the embodiment of who you were created to be in its full force. It's that divine purpose for being in this world. And we all have it. Yet a lot of us don't tap into it because we're afraid, or because we grew up differently, and we don't feel like we have a right to step into that light. We're so afraid of our light that we'd rather stay in our fear and comfortable surroundings and circumstances instead of fully embodying that gift.
Yeah. I think recently I had a guest on the podcast, and one of the quote they shared was something about shining your light liberates others to shine theirs. And that for me was really, really strong, because I know that there are a lot of persons we look up to around in society that don't even know that we exist. And just because they happen to, do one thing, let's say they were the first woman to do this, the first man to do this, or the first person from country to do this particular thing, or they went through the specific thing that we went through, and they were able to like overcome. And maybe we just heard their story, or on the radio, or on TV, or we read on the newspaper, and we don't even know who. They don't even know who we are. They don't even know if we exist, or we even they've never even seen us or heard our name. Yet these people, because of these people, because they shine their own light, they give us the permission, or their own presence gave us the permission to shine out. Being the light, right, is a very powerful statement. But one of the things I noticed about being the light is that it's beyond just you. It's beyond you shining and say, "Oh yeah, I want to be the light." It's all the people that will be around you, all the people that will look you and say, "Wow,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, she can do it, but she's shining. I too can do it."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And they want more of that. When you see people fully stepping into the roles they were born to step into with no apology, because a lot of people will apologize for being successful, or they're, I think, more afraid of being successful than they are being,
yeah,
not,
yeah. Yeah,
right? Their success is like the way we grow up when we're little. I mean, truly little kids. We're fearless. Like, we don't see fear because it's not who we are.
yeah,
We're born fearless. And then somewhere along the way, we get a parent that's a little bit too anxious, that maybe tells you, oh, no, you can't do that. And you start to hear that same message over and over and over again. And so we stop being who we truly are meant to be and start programming ourselves to be someone less than,
yeah.
not enough. And those are the things that I want to remind people of. Is I'm a woman of faith, as well you probably have seen and heard just in the way I'm talking. And I've lived through a lot in my life, and and that I faced death and got very clear in my mind about who I was born to be. And I'm still on that quest, just so we're clear, because it's the journey of life, right? We encounter all these circumstances and we have a choice to either remain in that circumstance or actually break free from it and step fully into that soul's desire, something that's pulling deep within us, that is calling us to a different calling that says, you can do this. You were born to do this. And you start to listen to it. And it's a whisper. It's not a yelling at you or anything. It's a whisper. And if you're not, if you practice intentionality daily to stay quiet and to get the noise out of your head and to really tune in to that little voice inside of your heart, and you start to feel that pull from your soul, and more importantly, act on it in a timely way, life actually seems easier almost. There's less resistance because you're being the light that you were born to be. The resistance comes when we're not in the will of God, where he wants to show us this beautiful, joyful life, and we're resisting him. And we're saying, no, we want this. But it's small compared to what he is wanting to give us. I always picture a cartoon character of us holding on to our control or to what we can control in our life. And God is saying, honey, let go. Let me show you a better way. Let me show you a bigger prize that you may not even begin to understand what I have for you. But if you're curious and you're intentional and you listen and you act, life starts to just flow.
Yeah, I think it's taken me back to the quote I was talking about, that our deepest fear is not that we are incapable. Our deepest fear is that we're capable beyond measure. That itself scares us.
Mhm. It does. I know it has scared me in the past. In fact, it scared me so much for 10 years. I ignored God's prompting to write my first book. I'm glad that when 2020 hit, he finally shook me into existence and said, you need to do it now. And at that point in my relationship with him, we have a very joyful relationship. I talk to him every day and I hear him talk to me like a friend and said, I need you to do this. And I need you to stay obedient. And I'm glad I did. And I'll tell you why. Because it healed my relationship with my father, who ended up passing away last year. But had I not written that book and not healed that, he would have passed away and we would have been dealing with a lot of resentment and anger that's very hard to deal with once that person passes on, you know? So I'm grateful that I was obedient, like in the moment, and just said, okay, well, I guess you'll let me know what it is I'm supposed to be writing about, because initially I was like, well, who am I to write a book? What am I supposed to write about? You know? And that's when the downloads started. Because when you stay obedient to your light, to your calling, like I said, he just started to open up paths before me. He would send me people and they would give me the answers to the questions I had in my head.
Oh,
And everything started to open up. And by the time I turned around, I had self-published my first book, and then I had gotten even more involved with writing. And then this past year, I did the second edition to that book. And I know I'm in my purpose because of everything that people said after they read the book. All the women that read it that said, I'm finally understanding what true surrender looks like so that I can be free of these beliefs that just don't serve me anymore. I was in my own dark chapter until I just started to stay consistent and obedient to the voice inside of my heart.
yeah. It's the picture that's just painting right in my head is the fact that writing the book gave a lot of persons that have read the book the liberation, the permission to shine their light. And not all, I know some of them, they've written to you, try to talk to you and tell you, oh yeah, book was really, really important to me. But that's just a few. What about the other persons that read the book, gave them permission to shine, but they didn't message you, didn't even talk to you or tell you anything about it? What about them? You don't know, right? You could be that it's I've had books where someone who owned the books, right? they were like leaving the house trying to park out, and then one of the things they threw away is the book. And then I'm going through the trash
Trash
can, and
can.
I see the book, and I'm like, okay, what's here? It has a good color, and I open it, and then I start reading, and I'm like, wow, this book is so brilliant. How come they threw this book away? And the book shifts my mind, changes everything about what I see reality to be, and then I'm like, I'm so glad I saw that book. Now, of course, I don't try to message or reach out to the author, like that thought doesn't cross my mind, except of course, it's a close friend. But in that context, I'm like, yeah, but the author might have written the book and say, oh, the book, I don't really know. Yeah, but I read the book, it touched my life, but there's no way for the author to know. And I'm happy that he wrote the book, but he doesn't even know that I read the book.
You touched on a very important topic, and I would hope to be able to speak into this. A lot of people out there are wanting the numbers, like the followers. Oh, if I don't have 20,000 followers, I'm not making a difference. And I beg to differ with them. And here's why. If you change one life, just one, you've completed your mission here on earth. Because as I said to you at the beginning of this interview, we're all interconnected. We all play a role in each other's success. We just have to be obedient and step into that beautiful light that we've been invited to step into, and just release our doubt, release our fears totally to whomever you believe in, and just do it. Just step in there with faith, whether you see your path or not. You do it, and as you show up this way in the world, and as you empower others, like you said, will be empowered to move through life. And then you are going to impact someone else that you may never meet until you get to heaven.
Yeah.
And then you'll meet them and they'll be like, you have no idea how your life impacted my life. There's a really good book that I read long ago called The 5 People You Meet in Heaven. And it's by Mitch Albom. He's an American writer. He lives, I think, in Pittsburgh. And he writes these beautiful stories about heaven and earth and death. A lot of it is grief, addressing grief. But it's a very powerful story because we impact people's lives. You just never know how. You'll never meet them until you get to heaven. And these are people that he never encountered, like the main character in the book, until he got to heaven. And then he realized how powerful his role had been, either good or bad, but it was still powerful, and it impacted their life in a way that connected them. And I just wanted to read the text I actually received, out of the blue, because my book, the second edition, released in September of 2024. And some of these girls had received the advanced reader copy, and they had written reviews, and they'd gone through the motion, right? But it takes sometimes reflection and true introspection to get to this space that I'm about to read. So she texts me and she says, "Hi, just wanted to let you know I found a message from your book. I finally surrendered myself fully to God. Now we wait and see what He has in store for me. Thank you for planting the seeds in my head and my heart and returning to my life." And that, when you read it as an author, you sometimes wonder if your book ever changes lives. But when you get texts like that, almost a year after, when they've been sitting with those seeds in their heart, and it finally makes that click, that's the role of an author.
Yeah. It's amazing how many persons have had the opportunity to have the conversation with just by mere reading their books, right? People that have long they're long gone, right? People that are like they lived 80 years ago, and I read their book and I'm like, wow. And there are books you read where you wake up, like the moment you finish reading the book, you jump and you start doing stuff. And then there are books you read, you sit down for the next 1 hour doing nothing. You're just trying to digest the book. Like it looks as if it hits you so hard that you're like, and it's like that man in the Bible that was like, and it was like, say, what can you see now? Say, I see men like trees. And they say, what can you see now? I see men. And it was like, so this is what I was missing before. Sometimes there are books that just like they open your eyes. You begin to see things that you never saw before. And this changes how you respond. This changes the way you behave. This changes what you do. It changes how you think, because now there are things that you see, and so you're aware that these things exist.
Mhm.
And yeah, to all the authors out there who've written incredible books, thank you so much.
And I find it interesting the timing of when we read these texts.
Yeah.
Don't you?
Yeah.
Right? There's times that you're
Yeah.
like, holy moly, it's like he can see, well, of course he can see your
Yeah,
thoughts,
I thought I
right?
was the only
So I was
one.
like, okay, I know you, I know you can see my thoughts, so you know what I feel. And then you get people, like I got certain guests on my podcast that booked with me. And when I looked at what they were wanting to talk about, I started laughing because I thought, this is so funny. You're really funny. This is exactly who I need to interview to get the information from, because it was in answers to a lot of the questions I had for him.
Please don't
And it's just
don't
like, wow.
don't go about exposing our secrets that we interview podcast guests such that we can learn a lot. Yeah, yeah, that's the
I find it like the timing is just perfect, but it's perfect in his timing, right? Because we as human beings, I don't know about you, but patience is something that I've got to work heavily on. It doesn't come as naturally to me. And I wanted to. I wanted to exude from my body, but that takes practice, right? Practice makes permanent. And the more I practice patience every day with the challenges in marriages, I'm married, as you know, and I have a little girl living here, but I also have an older boy. And we come from different backgrounds, my husband and I. And just recently, God said, this is your command. Like, this is what I'm asking you to do. I'm asking you to submit to your marriage the way you've submitted to me. And see, submission for me was a very bad word for a long time. And I'm like, it was like, okay, what does that look like? What does that feel like? And I'm excited to interview some of these guests because they're talking about marriage and conflict in marriage. And I just started laughing because I was like, oh my goodness, this is exactly the types of conversations I need to have so that I can start understanding what submission like that looks like, right? And doing it because God has asked me to do it, not for any other reason, right? But a lot of these connections were made as I was interviewing. I can't wait to go back to those interviews and re-listen so that I can have the lesson and start applying it right away, because it was like it was a click that went off in my head. And that was precisely the click I needed. It was the one piece of the puzzle that was missing just like a day ago.
yeah. Right now, I'm very, very, very. Should I say angry or sad? Okay, more like sad right now, because this conversation has to come to an end. But I would love to continue
And
this conversation with you on my other podcast where I talk about people and podcast hosts, their podcast story, how they've used their podcast to kind of like impact life, change their life, and make a ton of money, depending on the one that that applies to you. So I don't know. I would reach out to you via that podcast. It's called My Podcast Story, and yeah, we'll get 1 hour to really chat and and continue this conversation. Thank you so much for sharing the quote with us. Where can listeners learn more about you and connect with you?
my webpage, so it's www.sylvia, Sylvia Worsham, WORSHAM.com. And readers that subscribe will get a free chapter of my latest book where I describe the 3 miracles I received in 72 hours.
Oh, thank you so much for
Of course,
being on the
my
podcast.
pleasure.
It was nice chatting with you.
It was amazing. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Relatable Wisdom. If you found something meaningful in this episode, make sure to follow or subscribe wherever you're listening. If you'd like to support the show, you can do that by buying me a coffee. The link is in the show notes. Every little bit keeps the conversations going. I'm your host, Wisdom Okonkwo, and I will see you in the next one. Until then, stay curious, stay inspired, and keep growing.